Coming up on the Flatland Sports Podcast, we preview the Kent State Golden Flashes, as well as give our predictions across the Big 12. Also, one thought, one take, and more.
And now,
what is this?
I know you're gonna dig this. This is the Flatland Sports Podcast.
Where do you come from? Lubbock, Texas?
Lubbock, Texas.
A place called Lubbock.
I wonder if they think I'm so gorgeous back in Lubbock.
What do you care about Lubbock? You're big time now.
I'm just a little homesick, that's all.
Is that what you want, Larry, to spend the night in Lubbock, Texas at a day's end with a $15 voucher from Cinnabon?
Lubbock? No, it's near Lubbock.
What's it like there?
It's flat, real flat. You stand on a coffee can, you can see Colorado.
Happy Thursday from across the Great Plains of West Texas. This is the Flatland Sports Podcast, free and available worldwide on YouTube and Spotify, except for possibly the People's Republic of College Station, where I'm reasonably sure they're censoring the internet. See, I talked to more than one Aggie who didn't know that Wes Welker was a Red Raider, didn't know who the List Eater was, and didn't know who the Gap Kid was. This was in the last 2 weeks, and separate Aggies, completely oblivious to this. I'm pretty sure if you asked one of them who Robert Johnson was, they'd tell you he was the king of Delta Blues, and he sold his soul to the devil at the crossroads. And that's assuming they were with it enough to know who that Robert Johnson was. Just a huge cover-up being undertaken by the Aggie administration. I want to call the Aggie sheeple, but there's a joke there that I don't want to make, so we'll be moving on. What we will be talking about today, though, we are previewing the Kent State Golden Flashes as they make their trip down to Lubbock. Also talking and giving predictions across the Big 12. Also, one thought, one take, and more. But first, Red Raiders in action. Tonight, Texas Tech Soccer will take on the New Mexico State Aggies. More Aggie talk. Tonight at 8 p.m., watch it on ESPN+. Red Raiders coming off a 2-0 win over the SMU Mustangs a week ago, currently sitting at a record of 4-1. They'll take on the Utah State Aggies, more Aggies, next week before starting Big 12 play against Baylor. Now moving on to the main topic of the show today, Texas Tech continues its march to glory this Saturday with a matchup against the Kent State Golden Flashes at Jones AT&T Stadium. This will be an 11 a.m. kickoff. That means beer and barbecue for breakfast. Ain't no shame in it. This game will be broadcast on TNT and HBO Max or whatever they decide to call themselves this weekend. You can also listen to Brian Jensen, John Harris, and Chris Level on the Texas Tech Sports Network. What do we need to know about Kent State? Well, they hail from Kent, Ohio, out of the Mid-American Conference, a.k.a. the MAC, probably the last remaining great regional conference in college sports. This will be Texas Tech's first ever meeting with the Golden Flashes, and also, surprisingly, only the second time the Red Raiders have ever had action on the schedule. Last time being against the Miami of Ohio Redskins in the 1948 Sun Bowl. Texas Technological College lost that game 13-12. Texas Tech, however, should definitely be in position to have a repeat of what happened last Saturday. For the Golden Flashes, they are coming off a 21-17 win against Merrimack College. Flashes were down 14-17 with about 5:40 left in the fourth quarter when Realist Clark returned a 99-yard kick for the go-ahead touchdown to win the game. Now, last season, Golden Flashes went 0-12. In fact, prior to last Saturday, Kent State hadn't won a single game since September 16th of 2023. That was a matchup against Central Connecticut State University. Clearly an improved team this year by virtue of finding their way into the win column. All that to say, though, Texas Tech is basically upgrading from a bad FCS team to a bad G5 team. Which, while it's not the most exciting thing in the world, and certainly not the most exciting game on the schedule, it is a little refreshing that the teams on the schedule that are supposed to be bad are actually bad, compared to, say, an Abilene Christian squad that was loaded with former Texas Tech players and coaches last year. Players to watch for Kent State, with no other context, Realist Clark, who returned a 99-yard kickoff for a touchdown last week, fully responsible for winning the game for the Golden Flashes. Drew DeShields, the Kent State quarterback, also threw for 118 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, had a 60% completion percentage. Receiver Cade Wolford, 109 yards, 2 catches, and 2 touchdowns. For Texas Tech, players to watch, number 1 on everyone's list is going to be Behren Morton. Morton left Saturday's game early with a hyperextended knee. Now, Joey McGuire said after the game that he was okay, that Morton had hyperextended his knee, but the x-rays came back negative. In the press conferences this week, he said that he's got some muscle soreness. The way he twisted his ankle as he fell probably saved him. There was no damage at all, just soreness. He's day to day. He is currently listed as questionable on the injury report. Now, my belief is if you had a team like Utah or Arizona State on the schedule next week, there's no doubt that Morton is playing that game. Instead, you have Kent State, meaning that you have an opportunity to let Morton recover for a game or two and hit Big 12 play at 100%. Now, I know Joey McGuire really wants Morton to hit Big 12 play running, and so he won't keep him off the field for too long if he is close to 100%. Now, if Behren Morton is going to be out for the game, we definitely will be interested to see how Will Hammond looks in the starting role. Last week, Will Hammond was 7 for 9 for 92 yards and 1 touchdown, which came on a 62-yard scramble. They clocked him at 20 miles per hour on that scramble, too, which I had to, just out of curiosity, I got in my Jeep. I drive a 97 Jeep Wrangler, sat it and parked, stopped it, and saw how fast I could accelerate to 20 in that thing. Hammond had me beat by at least double the time. It took me about 8 seconds to get up to 20 miles an hour. Hammond did it in 3 to 4. Texas Tech lost that game. Hammond's last start came against Arkansas in the Liberty Bowl last year. Texas Tech lost that game 26-39, but was missing nearly all of its starters and both coordinators, with Tim DeRuyter being let go. Will Hammond was 20 for 34, 280 yards, and 1 touchdown. However, he also threw 2 interceptions in that game. If Hammond is the guy this week, it will be a good chance to see how he's progressed over the summer and how he handles the starting role. We've seen some really good things from Will Hammond. We just need to see more consistency and some good decision making. Now our next player to watch, Jack Burgess, the punter. I didn't see him last week. I don't want to see him this week. Texas Tech hasn't punted since December 27th of 2024. I want to keep that streak going. Jack, nothing against you. I just don't want to see you on the field this week. Best of luck to you. Get some chimneys or something delivered to you while you're sitting on the sidelines. I don't know if you can deliver chimneys, actually. Either way, I digress. As of today, let's go over the keys to the game now. Just like last time, there really is no keys to the game as much as things that I would really like to see. If it's the Will Hammond show, I want him to play mistake-free football. Hammond had a fantastic outing last week, and has proven to be an incredibly athletic quarterback. However, he was a little sloppy, had a few costly mistakes last season, such as the fumble at the end of the TCU game. I want to see Hammond play smart, mistake-free football against what should be an inferior opponent. I also want to see the running backs pass protect better. Aside from overall athleticism, one of the biggest things that you lost when you lost Quentin Joyner was in the pass protection game. I want to see Cam Dickey especially step up and improve there. We know they can run. We know they're athletic. We know they can score. But I want to see them keep Morton and or Will upright tonight. Saturday. As I mentioned, I want to see the no putt streak continue. This is an opponent that you should absolutely run over. I want to see Jack Burgess with his feet kicked up on the sidelines, enjoying the game with the rest of us. He's earned it. My only real concern about this game is the possibility that the Red Raiders might get off to a slow start with an 11 a.m. kickoff. Students might arrive slow. The energy might be low. We've seen that plenty of times. I think about Texas Tech dropping a game to a mediocre Colorado team back in 2007 on an 11 a.m. kickoff on the day after Halloween. I do expect Joey McGuire and company to have the guys ready to play, though. There's no chance of storms as far as I can tell, so we won't have another shortened game. So I'm going to call it like I called it last week and was so close to getting. Texas Tech will pass the 70 mark this week. I'm calling 70-6 Texas Tech over the Kent State Golden Flashes. Now moving on to the rest of the league, let's take a look around the Big 12. First up, number 16, Iowa State, the Cyhawk game. Iowa State won that one last year. It's an 11 a.m. kickoff on Fox. Iowa State, a 3.5-point favorite. I'm taking the Cyclones 32-16 over the Hawks. ISU appeared to be really good this year, and I think they're just going to continue and win this one comfortably. Baylor at number 17, SMU, a classic Southwest Conference matchup. This game is 11 a.m. on, let me check the notes, CW. SMU is a 2.5-point favorite. SMU looked good in their last game. Baylor did not. Maybe Baylor bounces back this game, but I doubt it. SMU is going to win this one 27-17. Up next, Kansas at Missouri. The border war returns after 15 years with some of the most petty back and forth trash talk that we've been missing since 2011, including a video put out by Missouri in which they talked about how Kansas and Missouri had been fighting since the Civil War, which is a weird thing to put out when you consider which side Missouri was on. But I digress. That's a 2:30 kickoff on ESPN2. Missouri, a 6.5-point favorite. Kansas, I believe, is an underrated team right now, and I think Missouri is overrated. Kansas, 27-17 is my prediction. Up next, Bowling Green at Cincinnati. That is a 2:30 kickoff on ESPN+. Cincinnati, a 21.5-point favorite. Cincy looked really bad against Nebraska. I don't know if that's how they're going to be. I kind of believe that's how they're going to be this year. But we're talking Bowling Green. They should win this one comfortably, 35-17. Oklahoma State at Oregon. It's a Big 12 versus Big 10 matchup, which is still weird to say when you talk about Oregon. 2:30 on CBS. Oregon, a 29.5-point favorite. Oklahoma State had some promises last week, but their quarterback is down. They'll be without a quarterback this week, possibly this year. They'll make it closer than what the experts are predicting, but it's not going to be enough. I'm taking Oregon 29-21. Delaware at Colorado. The Fighting Blue Hens at the Buffaloes. That's a 2:30 Fox kickoff. Colorado, a 24.5-point favorite. Colorado, to me, looked like a team that wasn't well coached. And I like Deion Sanders. I'm not a Deion Sanders hater here, but they definitely looked like a team that was dealing with a lot of distractions. And goodness knows that, with cancer, and I'm not saying there's anything that could be done about it, but this team was very distracted over the offseason, and it showed in the last game. We are talking the Blue Hens, though. Fighting Blue Hens, excuse me. I'm taking Colorado 45-7. I think they clean a lot of things up this game. Up next, West Virginia at Ohio. It's a Group of 5 stadium road trip. West Virginia, a 3.5-point favorite, which is interesting from Vegas. Vegas seems to be expecting a shootout because they have the over-under set at 60.5 points. I don't think it's going to be that close. I don't know what Vegas is really seeing, or if they're just really not high on West Virginia or really super high on Ohio's offense. I'm going to say West Virginia 28-17. Cal Poly at number 25 ranked Utah. Utah enters the polls this week. 5 p.m. kickoff on ESPN+. Utah looked really, really good last week against UCLA. Now, UCLA could also just be really, really bad. We really won't find out this week. I didn't even know Cal Poly had a football team. I just knew them for baseball. So we'll take Utah 47-3. Up next, Army at Kansas State. That's a 6 p.m. ESPN kickoff. Kansas State, a 17.5-point favorite. The Wildcats had struggled. If they turn the ship around, it starts this week. If they struggle in this game, and Army is definitely a team from the G5 ranks that could jump up and pull off an upset here. If Kansas State struggles this week, this might be it for their season. But I will take Kansas State 28-14. Houston at Rice. They battle for the Bayou Bucket. That's a 6 o'clock kickoff on ESPN+. Houston, a 13.5 point favorite. I'm going to take Houston 24-10, and I miss the Southwest Conference every single day. Next up, North Carolina A&T at UCF. That's a 6 p.m. ESPN Plus kickoff. A&T has a great band and a terrible football team. UCF 47-16. Arizona State at Mississippi State. It's a Big 12 versus SEC showdown, and you know what that means. I don't know what that means either. It means that the battle for perception is afoot, and whether you win or lose, they're still going to say the SEC is better than you. But Arizona State, a 6.5 point favorite. The Sun Devils didn't look near as good as I would have thought against Northern Arizona. I do expect them to bounce back, though. It's going to be Arizona State 31-21. Weber State at Arizona. That's a 9 p.m. kickoff on ESPN Plus. Arizona is getting their footing. I expect to see improvement from them week to week. We're going to call Arizona 51-7. And then the last Big 12 game of the week, Stanford at BYU. That's a 9:15 kickoff on ESPN. Big 12 after dark. BYU, a 20.5 point favorite. Stanford lost to Hawaii earlier this season. They aren't good. They aren't going to be good. BYU is very good. That's my expert analysis. I'm taking BYU 48-12, and I think 12 is generous for the Cardinal. So that is our look around the Big 12. Here's one thought, one take. One conversation that periodically surfaces among those on social media is discussions of which upgrades would we like to see made to the Jones in the future. Especially now when you factor in the necessity to remain on the cutting edge of facilities, not only from a recruiting standpoint, but also if the opportunity, or rather the life or death necessity, to get an invitation from the Southeastern Conference or the Big Ten should arise. Now, we've seen schools on the G5 level, such as Memphis, completely miss out on a Power 4 invitation due to facilities, and even after the Tigers completed a $227 million renovation of the Liberty Bowl at the Big 12's recommendation, they still were not able to successfully leverage an invite into the Big 12. Even after they offered to pay the conference $200 million in additional revenue. The reality is, if a school misses its opportunity, it's unlikely to ever get a chance again. So from a Texas Tech standpoint, while there's no Power 2 invite on the horizon today, we've seen firsthand how quickly the landscape can change, especially with conference media deals set to expire by the end of the decade. So where does Texas Tech stand from a facilities standpoint? Well, pretty dang good, actually. Some fans will cite the size of the Jones as an issue that needs to be addressed. As we sit today, the official capacity currently sits right at 60,000 fans. When you compare that to the stadiums of the Southeastern Conference, the Jones sits near the bottom, but not at the bottom. What isn't talked about near as much, though, is how far ahead of the SEC Texas Tech is from just an amenities standpoint and a fan experience standpoint. Neyland Stadium, home of the Tennessee Volunteers, for example, offers close to no chairback seating, no real concession options, and no form of premium options. So while it boasts a 101,000 capacity, at the end of the day, it's basically just a giant pile of concrete, like a double-decker high school stadium. If you took out the chairback and premium seats from the Jones and just replaced them all with metal bleachers, you probably could cram about 75,000 people into that stadium as it is. The fact is, Jones AT&T Stadium isn't just a top-tier college facility. The Jones, along with the Womble training facility, could go toe-to-toe with most NFL facilities. From a capacity standpoint, most NFL stadiums average between 60,000 to 80,000, and from an amenities standpoint, Texas Tech is right there with the best of them. So if you're asking me what I want to see added to the Jones, I would tell you absolutely nothing right now. Instead, if we're putting money into Texas Tech athletics, I would much rather see a new stadium built for Texas Tech baseball, as Dan Law Field is seriously outdated and has been for a long, long time. But if you put a gun to my head and force me to choose, I'm not talking about anything that increases the capacity. The next thing I want to see is a partial roof installed, similar to Hard Rock Stadium or what you see in soccer stadiums in FIFA and elsewhere. And as anyone who's ever sat on the east side for a 2:30 kickoff, they'll absolutely agree with me. That sun is brutal. Heck, I'll even support a Texas Stadium-esque dome over the Jones with the hole in the middle so God can watch his favorite team. Providing a break from the sun is probably the last upgrade that Jones AT&T Stadium really needs. But make no mistake, Texas Tech has one of the finest venues in the country as we sit in the year of our Lord 2025. Let me know in the comments, what next improvement do you want to see at Jones AT&T Stadium or elsewhere among Texas Tech athletics? One final thing before we get out. Texas Tech announced a game with the Arkansas Razorbacks that will be played on August 31st, 2030 at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, Nevada. Now, Texas Tech fans, myself included, can get a little emotional. Some fans were immediately upset with the announcement as it appeared to alter a previously scheduled home-and-home with the Arkansas Razorbacks, as well as just being generally upset with the idea of a game being moved away from campus over to a neutral site. However, Don Williams, the Toya Rose, was there in the nick of time with additional reporting that explains the arrangement a little bit better. So I'm going to break it down for you all now. So in 2030, Texas Tech will play Arkansas in Las Vegas. And then in 2031, Texas Tech will play at Arkansas. And then in 2034, Arkansas will come to Lubbock. So you're not losing a home game in Lubbock. It got bumped a little bit, but not too far. The way the schedule works out, Texas Tech will still have 7 home games each season, including the 2030 season, so you're not really losing a home game. Now, I know a lot of people absolutely hate neutral site games. I get it. It was hard when Baylor was just always in Dallas every year, but all in all, I actually really enjoy them for Texas Tech. I had a lot of fun when I was in the going band from Raiderland traveling to Dallas for Texas Tech and Baylor in the last decade when they were doing that. I was happy to see that game return to home and home, but it's just if Texas Tech ever gets the call even to go play a game in Ireland, sign me up. It just looks like a really cool fan experience and a really cool experience for Texas Tech as a whole. Neutral site games never really bothered me unless they just get repetitive like Baylor did. I would love to see more quality non-conference opponents in the Jones each year, but the reality is it's really hard to get teams to agree to come play here. And that's a compliment to Texas Tech. Even in down years, Jones AT&T Stadium was a tough place to play in. In a perfect world, we should be getting regular home-and-home series with teams like Texas, Texas A&M, Missouri, Nebraska. But as the current landscape of college football sits, it's just too risky for a team with college football playoff aspirations to come play in Lubbock. So until the landscape changes, I don't really care where Texas Tech is playing as long as it means they're playing quality opponents. Similar to Miami in the early 80s, who had a whole attitude of, you tell us when and where, we'll come play you. We can be the Road Raiders. Just name the time and place, and the Cactus Mafia will be there ready to throw tortillas. Well, that's all I got for you. Thank you so much for making the Flatland Sports Podcast part of your day. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe button so you never miss a new episode. We'll be back Saturday after the game for the live post-game show on Twitter X. I've got all the bugs worked out. It won't be sideways this time. My name is Christopher Johnston. Have a great rest of your week, and Wreck 'em Tech.